Real-world computer programming for kids of all ages. Step 56. Dipping a toe into web technology. Part 3. jQuery. One way to illustrate what the combination of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, or jQuery, more specifically, provides is to compare them to a living human, where the HTML is the bones and flesh, the CSS is the clothing, makeup, hairstyling, and the bling a person wears, if any, and the JavaScript, or jQuery, is the pumping heart that gives life to it all. Without a heart, a person is nothing but an impressive mannequin, like this cat. And it shows a picture of a mannequin, snappily dressed, or snazzily dressed. So we get to the heart of the matter now with the incorporation of JavaScript. To be a little more specific, it's jQuery, an excellent and free JavaScript library, which we will be using. If we don't incorporate our JavaScript or jQuery in the right way, though, this living being that we will create by pumping blood into its veins and animating it could turn into a monstrosity like this cat. And it shows a picture of Frankenstein. Actually, Dr. Frankenstein's monster, whose name was Adam. As are HTML and CSS, jQuery is a large subject in its own right, and there are many entire books devoted to it. We will just give a very brief introduction to jQuery in this step, and then revisit it later as it comes up due to our using it in our website. As is our custom, we will show you an example to make things plain. Again, it is created in JS Fiddle, or as they call it in that community, it is a fiddle. You can name your fiddles so as to retain or save them. I named this one Second Fiddle. It's really like my 100th, but for this book it's my second. If I were to be writing this on a rooftop, I would be, well, anyway. We'll start off slowly with this simple HTML. And it shows a few lines of HTML, and this jQuery, a few lines of that. And this is what we get when we run it. A screenshot is shown of the result. So the HTML provided an H2 tag heading 2, an H3 tag heading 3 naturally, and a button. Notice that the button has been assigned a class name of btn1, and that all three of those items display when we run our HTML code. But what about the jQuery code? Does it work? If you click the button, you'll see that nothing happens. Why not? Is something wrong with the jQuery code? No. Before we get to the reason why that is failing, though, let's dissect the jQuery code a bit. The ready function, which it references on its first line, is similar to a form's load or shown event in a Windows Forms app. It says that this code is active from the get-go. The next bit of code is equivalent to a button's click event handler, applied to a button with a class name of btn1. In fact, that is exactly what it is. It just looks strange to you, perhaps, because jQuery is a different language with different syntax than what C# uses. What the code is supposed to do in response to a button of that description being clicked is to set the text property of the H3 or heading 3 element to Gladiator. If there are multiple H3 tags in the HTML, it would change all of them to that value. That's why the use of the class name is usually needed, rather than the name of the type of the tag, or at least preferred. In our simple little fiddle, it will be fine to leave it as is, though. So now, why does the code not run, the jQuery code? It's because we're missing a key declaration in the HTML code, specifically this. And it shows a line of code that pulls in the Ajax library. Adding that calls in the jQuery library, hosted by Google, and makes the jQuery functionality available to us. This is similar to a using clause in Windows Forms apps. So when we add that to the HTML within the head section, like so, and it shows the HTML with that added script, and run it again, clicking the button, and we see, and it shows a screenshot that, wallaby, it worked. And this proves that the code doesn't work with plain old JavaScript, but works like gangbusters when jQuery is invited to and shows up at the party. Excuse me while I kiss the sky. I mean, while I add the rest of the buttons and relevant code. I'm back. That didn't take long. It was just more of basically the same code, and now we have this after clicking the 2013 button. And it shows a screenshot of the result. And it worked. In case you want to copy it, I'm pasting all of the code below. You probably don't want to enter all that yourself. So I've got the HTML, I've got the jQuery, and then it says, as you can see, the HTML and jQuery I added was just more of the same, nothing new. So there's no need to comment on it, I don't think. So that, my friends, was a very minimal example of what you can do with jQuery. It's just the lightest scratching of the surface of jQuery's power, but will do for now as an introduction. I can't help adding a little bit of CSS, though, to make it look better, as the output is an order of magnitude homelier than a singed cat. Here is the CSS I added. Then it shows that, changing the body, the heading 2, the heading 1, and the button. Yes, heading 1 because I changed the heading 3 element to a heading 1 element, as it seems the name of the movie is the most prominent thing. And here is how it looks now after clicking the 2013 button. It shows a screenshot of that. Feel free to play around with it yourself and improve it. I'd love to see what you come up with. Go ahead and show me up. You can include screenshots of your creations, emailing me at the address below, and I may publish them in an upcoming newsletter. Until then. And as far as the email address goes, it's got the newsletter has the normal notification that you can send in questions to idiolectable@gmail.com. And you can send in those screenshots that I talked about also to that same place.